Hello again. The online safety bill is one of those ideas which sound marvellous in principle, but which will in practice introduce a law which is unworkable and will simply make life difficult for everybody whose views differ slightly from what is now considered responsible and correct, which I venture to suggest probably covers about 99.9% recurring of viewers of this channel. It is one of those prospective laws which on the face of it looks utterly sensible and absolutely necessary. Things which claim to be intended to protect kiddies and old folk often do, which is why those groups are often used as a stalking horse to get through dangerous and illiberal legislation. What's that? You oppose this new law? Don't you care about the threat to our children? It's a really old tactic, but one which never fails. Viewers will probably remember that this whole online harms and online safety bill began after some awful cases of young people killing themselves after being exposed to some unpleasant things on the internet. Some would say that we are responsible for making sure that our children do not access the internet freely if we don't want them to, and that we should not rely upon the government to do this instead. I was responsible for my daughter's safety and well-being when she was below the age of 16 or 17, and so I did not give her a mobile telephone. The only computer in the house was in the living room, so that anybody passing could see at a glance what the child was looking at. This was my responsibility, not that of the state. The current feeling appears to be that parents should be allowed to give their children free access to the internet and then expect the government to keep an eye on what their kids are watching and make sure they're not looking at anything unsuitable for their age. This strikes me as a hideous abandonment of parental authority and responsibility. At any rate, this was all the original intention of the bill, but since then various amendments have been made to it which have nothing at all to do with children. For example, one amendment will make it illegal for social media companies to show small boats carrying illegal immigrants across the channel in a favourable light. These powers will be backed by ferocious penalties. And the very latest amendment, by the way, involves misogyny. The idea is that any misogyny will also be actionable. So in the end, when it's passed, the government will have the ability to fine companies like YouTube and Facebook 10% of their worldwide profits. It's not hard to see what effect this is going to have. If it's illegal to show images of boats full of illegal immigrants crossing the channel in a favourable light, then the safest thing for YouTube will be to avoid allowing any images at all of such things, just to be on the safe side. In effect, this means that any photographs or videos showing the illegal immigration from France to England will be censored and hidden. Making misogyny an offence will mean much the same thing. It isn't hard to see that making jokes such as "what do you say to a woman with two black eyes, nothing, you've already told her twice," will be banned from social media, and it's only a short step to worrying that fierce criticism of some female politician or police officer might be construed as misogyny if it's too vehement. Of course, this is before we even get onto the new category of harms, so-called harms, which are created by this bill. That is to say, those which are, and I quote, legal but harmful. In other words, the idea is that things which one can say freely in the street or down the pub will be subject to legal sanctions if they appear on a social media site. It was, I freely admit, a brilliant scheme of the government to bring in this law under the guise of being concerned about the welfare of vulnerable children. It means, in effect, that nobody likes to criticise it or draw attention to how shocking some of the provisions made in this are because nobody wishes to appear indifferent to the suffering of 14-year-old girls who hang themselves or starve themselves to death because they are anorectic. It was these evils that the online safety bill originally promised to fight, and now that it's being passed, all the other bits and pieces are being bolted on when nobody is looking. When this bill becomes law, Britain will have as strict regulation of the internet as Iran or China, and yet nobody wants to be the one to draw attention to it or protest, in case they look heartless.